Is the move of Lorena Wiebes to Team SD Worx a threat for Lotto Kopecky?
No.
Is Team DSM the team that lost most of the quality?
Yes.
Will Annemiek van Vleuten change her racing style with Mackay and Lippert in the team now?
No.
Will Demi Vollering feel freed with Ashley Moolman-Pasio moving to AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep?
Yes.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Domestique Cycling Podcast. Tonight the cycling season really started with the Australian National Championships. And guess what? Our young wolf of 2022, he took another national title, Luke Plapp. Did anyone watch it of you guys?
I didn't wake up at the middle of the night to watch it, but I saw the results and the attack in the last 3K. It was impressive, but...
Yeah, same thing for me. I couldn't get up that early, but that attack, wow. Just staying away like that as well. Really
I'm
impressive.
not gonna lie, I didn't see it either, but I watched some highlights of the race, and it seemed to me that Plapp was pretty strong.
Definitely.
He said before the race that he crashed in December, I think. That he had some doubts about the race, but seems to be okay now.
Yeah, I don't think he needed to have real doubts.
The women's race, there we saw Brodie Chapman winning the title. And Brodie Chapman, she makes the move of FDG to Trek Segafredo in 2023. And here we are at the topic of this episode, the transfers within the women's peloton. Do you think it's a good move of Chapman?
I think if you win the first race of the season, it's a good move for the team. Is it a good move for Chapman? I think so. She rode 3 seasons with FDG, and she probably felt it was time to move on to a new environment. So I think she had a really good winter, as the result last night proved us that.
Do you think we can make something up about those Australian races? Of course, it's Australians racing each other. It's not is it World Tour level, do you think, out there?
There are a lot of good Australian cyclists, like the team Jaco Alula is like full of Australians in the men's peloton and the women's peloton. And I think if you are able to win against that team, so if you're not part of that team, you are really strong, because that team can play out the numbers. They have several cards they can play, and if you can outsmart that sort of stuff, I think you are really good. Is it World Tour level? Yeah, not really, because if you look at the results, it's like a top 10 with now and then a more unknown name from a continental team, I think, or a regional team. But I think it's just a nice way to start off the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that those races are raced at a very high level because of the sort of separate Australian racing season, because it's summer for them right now. So a lot of the lesser known Australian cyclists, for them it's now peak season and they're at their top form, whereas the pros that need to go for the full year right now are only just getting started. So they need to, if they want to win this race, they have to peak now and then actually build back down and peak again later on in the season.
Amanda Spratt finished on the podium as well, I think, like 30 seconds behind Chapman. She's going to Trek Segafredo as well, together with Lisa Klein. Those 3 names, Spratt, Klein and Chapman, is that enough quality added to the team?
I think it's a bit of a difficult one, because they lost Cordorago and Chloe Hosking. Cordorago was someone who was sure would get some nice results through the season. Now you're bringing Chapman, Spratt, Lisa Klein. I don't know. I don't think it's a massive improvement, but I don't think they are worse than last season either.
You mentioned Cordon Rago. In my opinion, she was like kind of the cornerstone of the team within the classic races. So as she left now, it will be a huge loss in my opinion. But we also have Paternoster and Diederiksen leaving the team, and especially Paternoster. I felt like she was coming to an end at Trek Segafredo, but I think we haven't seen the best from her yet. So she's going to Jaiko now. Could be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We've seen a lot of really good stuff from her on the track as well. But on the road in the elite category, it sort of hasn't come out yet. So maybe a change of environment is going to set that in motion.
And she is only 23 years old, so
exactly.
It's not that she's old. She still has a lot of potential, I'm sure.
So Hosking, Paternoster and Diederiksen out of the team, those were kind of the sprinting hopes of the past year, but with Elisa Balsamo now in the team, is it okay to say that the team, they didn't need him anymore?
They didn't need him. I don't know. I think Cordon Rago and Hosking were gonna go to the BNB project. Did Trek let them go because they didn't need them? I don't think so, but I think Hosking and Cordon Rago just wanted another challenge, another environment. It's not that bad that they are out of the team, but I think it's worse for Hosking and Audrey, because Hosking is, I think, almost certain and forced to retire. If I saw her tweets earlier this week, and Cordon Rago is picked up by a French small team, if I recall correctly. So I think it's really a step back for them, unfortunately, out of their hands. They couldn't do anything about it, but
it's a step back, but they, especially Cordon Rago, she didn't have another choice in the end.
That's it, and it's a pity.
Maybe one word about Lisa Klein. She comes from Canyon SRAM Racing. I felt like her time at the team was coming to an end last season, as she couldn't. The team had some hopes on her, but I think in the end we didn't see a lot from her in 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. In 2021, she had a pretty good season, but then last year it didn't really materialize. So I do think that it's sort of not along the lines of expectations of the team. So having her in a new environment could definitely help her sort of kickstart that progress again.
That's an important one you mentioned there, I think. Maybe we could see this as a new start of the career, a second start?
Potentially. Like, she's only 26. There's still a lot of potential for a lot of success in the coming years, and especially in women's cycling, we see a lot of women taking it quite long in their careers and being able to produce really good results for a very long time. So age is definitely not going to be the problem here.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to the second big team in the Women's World Tour, Team SD Worx. Yves, you answered the question, is the move of Lorena Wiebes to Team SD Worx a threat for Lotto Kopecky? With no. Can you explain that and take Barbara Guarici into account as well?
If you look at the Wiebes and Kopecky, I don't think it will be a huge problem. I think it will be more of a benefit for each other than it will work against them, because Kopecky likes to have a hard race and isn't scared to take initiative throughout the race as well. So if she decides to rip it apart on some hill or on a tough section with wind, she can try and get in an elite group where she will probably be the fastest or one of the fastest. And if it's not possible or there isn't a gap established, then there is Wiebes with the lethal power. I think it might be a problem in a Gent-Wevelgem, for example, because I suppose it will be a target for both of them. Kopecky as Belgian and the Belgian Spring Classics are big, and then Wiebes wants to prove herself even more in those races as well. You mentioned Guarici. I think that's more of a problem, because Guarici is more the pure sprinter, just like Wiebes is a pure sprinter. But yeah, I don't know if you have Wiebes, Kopecky, and Guarici. I don't know how their calendar will look like, but I don't see them race a lot together. At least I hope so. Otherwise, we will see some weird tactic stuff within SD Worx, and that
would not be very new.
We don't want to see that in 2023. We saw it enough in the last couple of seasons, but let's hope they work out the race programs a bit better. But I think the Wiebes Kopecky story isn't a huge problem. I think if there is a problem, it will be with Guarici, I think.
Shouldn't we see Guarici as the new lead out of Lorena Wiebes?
It's possible, yeah.
If that's something she wants to do, because not everyone wants to do that.
Guarici is 32 years old. She became pro in 2020. So she was relatively old when she came in the pro peloton. And within Movistar, she always had the chance to go for her own luck. I don't know her as a person. I don't know how her mentality is. But if you rode 3 seasons as a sprint leader, it might be difficult to go into a lead-out mode.
Yeah, but now you have like the world's best sprinter in the team, so
yeah, maybe she gets the role of Charlotte Kool at DSM, who surely has the legs to be a sprinter herself in another team. But
that's what I think as well, that she will be the lead out in the races that Wiebes is in the team, and when Wiebes isn't in the team, she'll get her chance.
Yeah, it would be smart to do that at least.
Different sources stated that Wiebes had some hopes in the Flemish Classics as well. You mentioned Gent-Wevelgem already. Do you think she's able to do more than Gent-Wevelgem? Like, the biggest races?
I think Ronde van Vlaanderen and other races might be too hard. I'm looking into her previous results. Last year it was a DNF. I think it's too hard. Like we saw in the Tour de France fun last year, on that there was a certain stage with a really steep hill, but it was quite small. I think it was 300 or 400 meters. And she dropped. She showed a tough mentality and tried to come back, but if you combine the steep average gradients and the cobbles, I think this season will be too early. I don't say it will be within a couple of years. If she decides to work on it, but I think 2023 will be too early for the big classics for her.
And what about Omloop het Nieuwsblad, for example? She ended up 3rd last year. If the best riders attack on Muur van Gerardsbergen or Bosberg, do you think she will be able to follow them?
No clue. It's she can surprise me, because like she was really fast the last couple of seasons. She surprised us all, I think, with several sprints, some master classes. She was 3rd in Omloop het Nieuwsblad last year, yes, so that means she can win. If you can finish on the podium, you can win. But you need the race need to evolve in a good way for her, I think. Certainly when you have Kopecky as well.
In that race, Vollering and Van Vleuten were like half a minute in front of them, so she did win the bunch sprint. I don't know if she can really win that race, because or Ronde van Vlaanderen. Because if the Vollering, Van Vleuten, Longo Borghini go on an attack, I think that's going to be too hard for her to try and follow. But maybe if the team is strong, they can bring her back. But
yeah, I think she needs to hope that if the strong riders attack on the tough part of the stage or the race, that or Kopecky isn't with the leaders, and there are a couple of domestiques left who can bridge the gap. It's a certain scenario will need to happen for her if she can win a classic.
Yeah, that's also going to be interesting if Kopecky is then in that break. Do they ride to bring Wiebes back? They probably shouldn't. But it is SD Worx that we're talking about, so who knows?
I hope they won't, because if you have Kopecky in the elite group, she's one of the fastest, in my opinion. So it would be stupid to bring her back. Certainly after the victories she gave SD Worx last season. Strade Bianchi, for example. I think she has a certain status within the team. So, yeah, it would be a not so smart to bring her back.
In the first races of the season, where Wiebes and Kopecky are in the same team, it will be kind of special. I can imagine Lotte Kopecky will have to adapt to the new tactics with Wiebes in a group behind her. It will be another way of racing than she did last year, I think.
Yeah, but I think she also may have come to the realization that going for the pure sprint races against Wiebes wasn't working out. Wiebes very rarely comes second in a sprint. So I think it's giving her more of the opportunity to double down on the races that they're both good at. So Wiebes going for the pure sprints, potentially trying her hand at the more tough races, but those tough races are really what Kopecky is world class at.
All right. You guys already met. Oh, Yves, you would like to say something else?
I think before we move on to another team, I would like to discuss shortly the transfer of Bredewold and Femke Marcus. Those two ladies come from the Park Hotel Valkenburg team. That's a team with a lot of Dutch talent hidden. And I think we can expect a lot from those two. The first part, a big domestique role, of course. They aren't brought in as leaders, but Femke Marcus has proven that she can handle a lot of terrains. She's really all round. And Misha Bredewold is a real powerhouse who can just lounge in attack, 30k to go into time trial modes and see if someone brings her back. And I think that's something that SD Worx maybe missed last season. Yes, they had Marlen Reusser, but besides Marlen Reusser, they didn't have that, I think. So right now, if they have that card to play in smaller races where Reusser isn't on the start list, it's beneficial even for the second team, so the 0.1 races or the point pro races where the best riders aren't always at the start.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah. Marcus is definitely an interesting transfer, and I look forward to see how she will fit in the team. But as you mentioned, I think first of all it will be as a domestique, because there's huge quality in the team, and that with that I'm not saying that Marcus doesn't have the quality, but she'll have to prove her first as the domestique in the team, I think.
Yeah, certainly.
I was going to talk about the troubles within SD Worx of the past season with Vollering and Moolman. Yeah, having some weird situations, I think. We all remember Amstel Gold Race, for example. Now Moolman has left for AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep, which means Vollering will be the biggest leader, I think, in the Ardennes Classic, for example. Do you think she will be able to win races easier than with Moolman Pasio in the team?
That's a difficult question, I think.
Or will it depend once again on the DS in the car?
First of all, it will depend on the DS in the car. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of following because she's a rider who dares to lose, and isn't afraid to go on the attack when people don't expect it. Is it easier to win without movement ratio? Yes and no, because if movement ratio is in the group as well, the other teams are forced to look at 2 different riders from SD Worx. No, it will be just one, most likely into the high mountains. But she can ride her own race, and she doesn't need to go at 5 to go because she thinks movement will go too early then, and she's screwed. So it's, I don't know if it will be easier, but it's certainly, yeah.
Maybe a question related to that. With the two being in 2 separate teams now, for whom will that be better? Will it be better for Vollering or will it be better for movement?
I think it will be better for Vollering. With Mollman, I think it's a pretty weird transfer. I think before she said she was going to retire, but then
she came back out of retirement.
Yeah. With her being 37, and I said before, like in women's cycling, really good results are possible at a higher age. But I don't know if she's going to be able to really produce those results for that team, which is not going to be a World Tour team this year. But they will get all the good invites, I'm guessing. So no, I think Vollering is definitely going to be the main person who benefits from this move.
All right, let's move over to Movistar and maybe take Team DSM into that as well, because Movistar brought in Floortje Mackay and Liane Lippert, which are, in my opinion, two good and very interesting transfers. Yves, you don't think that will change anything for Annemiek van Vleuten?
If it changes something, it will be easier for Annemiek, I think. She doesn't need to carry the load of the whole team on her shoulders. I think that are 2 really good transfers, and Annemiek van Vleuten can be really happy that they joined the team.
Imagine a team with Van Vleuten, Mackay, Lippert, and I think Arlene Sierra is still there as well. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they are building out a nice squad, Movistar. It was a couple of seasons only Van Vleuten and Norsgaard, and then the others were a bit domestiques, just pure domestiques, and now you have 3 or 4 leaders within the team. So yeah, they're doing good work, the women's team from Movistar.
Do you guys think that the moves of Mackay and Lippert are moves for the future? With that, I mean Annemiek van Vleuten is having her final season in 2023, normally, which means Lippert, will she have to wait for another year to be the big leader of the team?
I don't think she's going to have to wait a year. I think they can ride different programs. It's a difficult one. She's quite young still, 24 years old. I think she'll definitely already be a leader this year, and then maybe full leadership next year. But I definitely think she can carry some races.
Yeah, I think Lippert is brought in as a leader from 2023 onwards. It will be a co-leader with Annemiek, of course, who has the rainbow jersey as well. But Lippert is a transfer for the future because she's young, but it's one that will pay off immediately.
Yep.
So you think we can expect a step up from 2022?
Yeah, she has proven she can ride a bike very well last season. Now it's time for her to shine the upcoming season.
Both Mackay and Lippert are coming from Team DSM, and add to that Lorena Wiebes is out of the team as well. Lea Kirchmann too. It's fair to say the team lost a huge amount of quality, even though our young wolf, Maeve Plouffe, is added to the team. But that's one for the future, of course.
Yeah, DSM came out of this transfer period quite badly, if I can say it. They lost all of their big stars. They have Charlotte Kool, who has proven to be very fast. So she will win a couple of races this season, but she needs to compete against her friend and maybe faster opponent, Wiebes. So we can all say she's very fast and she will win races, but it's always easier to win a race when Wiebes is in your team, and you don't have to sprint against Wiebes. Then you need to beat Wiebes one-on-one. I don't think the team bought a lot of young talents. It's a very young team, but the quality, they brought in 7 riders. I don't know a lot of them, but it's to them to surprise us, I think. I don't have a lot of high hopes about DSM, except Charlotte Kool.
You're mentioning it now, and I think we said it earlier in a previous episode as well. The whole team is 25 or younger, which means this can be kind of a building year. A lot of riders just gaining experience. But still, we always have some riders, with some expectations. I'm thinking about Juliette Labous, for example. Maybe Pfeiffer Georgie will have her next step this season as well. But is it okay to put high hopes on those young shoulders?
I don't know who has high hopes for them straight away. I think this is sort of the years that they still get to develop. Team DSM sometimes feels like it's the development team in the World Tour, although they do have their own development team. They produce a lot of great talents within the World Tour. So maybe that's just their strategy. They want to bring those talents in and develop them there, and then they're okay with them leaving, because we see that with the men's team as well. It's very rare that a big talent stays with DSM for a longer period of time. So I don't think there's really pressure for them. It's more of an opportunity to prove themselves.
All right, I think that's a nice way to conclude Team DSM. Let's move over to UAE, Team ADQ. Which took over half of the team of Valkar.
Yep.
The new riders in there, amongst others, Amia Liusic, Persico, Consani, Harvey and Gasparini. And they lost Mavi Garcia to live. What do you guys think?
Mavi Garcia is a loss, for sure. She was asserted to get some results through the season.
Yeah, but
wins.
It's an obvious move out. If your own DS hits you with his card. I remember that in was it Tour de France, Fam?
Yeah, she had some, and was it in a gravel stage or in that the stage with a lot of gravel? She had 11 or 12 punctures, and then her own DS eroding.
Jokes aside, all right.
Yeah, it's Mavi Garcia is a loss, but they brought in some real talent. So that team became really strong for 2023. Consoni is fast in a bench sprint.
Winner of Gors Vlaanderen 2022.
Yes, as well. Sylvia Persico was one of the surprises of last season, I think.
And is my big hope for 2023, actually.
Same here. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing what she's going to do this season, because, the results from last year were pretty amazing in some races.
We've seen her within the cyclocross world as well. Remember Val di Sole, for example. She has a really big engine. She fell 10 times, but got up 11. Is she a potential Grand Tour winner in the future?
That's difficult to say, I think. When can you say she's a potential Grand Tour winner? Yes, she was 5th in the Tour de France Femmes. That's like the David Gaudu, who's 5th in the Tour de France. Is David Gaudu a potential Grand Tour winner?
Some people would say so.
I say no, but other people will say I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
It's spreading.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a bit harsh to compare Sylvia Persico to David Gaudu, no?
No, it's just if you look at the results last year, she came 5th in the Tour de France. So when you look at that, you can say she's a future Grand Tour winner. But we all know when we look at cycling the last couple of seasons, it's not because you end up 5th in the Tour de France and 7th in the Giro that you're a future Grand Tour winner. It takes a bit more than that. She'll need to develop. Of course, Annemiek van Vleuten will not be here anymore in the pro peloton in a couple of years. So that's...
and that's when opportunities arise, I think.
Then the opportunities rise, of course. But she certainly has the talent to make it work. And if she works hard and do the right things through the next couple of seasons in her career, she can have a shot on a Grand Tour win. But to call her a future Grand Tour winner, I think it's a bit too early to put that pressure on her.
It's also depending on how the women's Grand Tours really evolve. Because if you, for example, have the time trials, I think that's sort of her weak point. But time trials aren't always a thing in women's Grand Tours. So I think that's also something that she's really going to have to work on. But the fact that she has such a big engine as well that we see in cyclocross, I think she should be able to develop that skill.
Yeah, I get your point, but we'll get back to this in a few years, I think.
Yeah, but like to come back at the point of Bram for a second, there are a lot of voices saying that the women's Grand Tour should be longer. So now it's 5 stages, 8 stages, and 10 stages for the Giro. Everybody, including me, wants it longer, I think. They certainly deserve at least 2 weeks. Saying women can't ride for that long on a high level is wrong as well. Because some studies have shown that women are actually better in sports with a longer duration, with several days of high performing. So I think they deserve maybe 2 weeks, and a time trial should be in there. Like now the Tour de France, there was none. I think if you want to win the Tour de France, you need to be able to ride a time trial bike as well, in my opinion.
About the duration of a women's Grand Tour, I agree that it needs to be longer on the long term, but I think it's something that needs to evolve slowly, as there are other priorities within women's cycling, I think, than giving them immediately a 3 weeks Grand Tour. On the other hand, the time trial is a crucial element of cycling, and that needs to be included to every Grand Tour in the men's and women's peloton. That's completely right.
Yeah, I think to go off topic a little bit, that the women's cycling is taking big steps forward. Last season with the Tour de France, it was really popular. A lot of people followed it. It was a perfect timing as well, right behind the Tour de France for the men. Everybody just wanted to make an extra week, an extra Tour de France week, and they just followed the fun. So I think the women's cycling is taking steps, but it's still not where it should be. One example is the broadcasting of races is still not good. Let's say in the Tour de France it was good, and we could all be happy what we all saw. But in all the other races, a bit smaller races, there is no coverage, or if you're lucky, you see the last 10K. So that's something you need to work on. And if there is more broadcasting, there is more money, and it will evolve through the years.
That's something that was helped by the Tour de France FAM, where they definitely saw that, okay, actually people are watching this. So this could potentially lead to other broadcasters wanting to expand their coverage or cover some different races. I think definitely in Belgium, the Flemish Classics, they try to do it as much as possible. Sometimes it's only the last hour. But even then, like, there is already a big effort started, and it's going forward.
As you mentioned, go ahead, Yves.
Go ahead. I think it's nice to see in the Flemish classics with the coverage that they do it, that the women's race finish behind the men's race. I think that creates that people stay put before their television and watch the end of the women's race as well. You can compare with the Tour de France. They saw 3 weeks Tour de France men, and they just say, we're in the flow of this Tour de France and we're going to watch it 1 week Tour de France fun. So I think that's actually a good idea to put the women's races to finish behind the men's races. Only problem is you might see only 1 hour or less of that race then.
I think the thing with broadcasting is the same thing as with the entire sport. You need to take it step by step, and as the sport is growing rapidly, you can't evolve that fast, I think. The dream of everyone is that we have a weekend with the women's race on Saturday afternoon, for example, and then on Sunday afternoon the men's race. But it wouldn't make sense to do that this year or next season. I think we need to take it step by step.
Yeah, for sure. Can only agree with that.
All right. About the women's transfers once again, are there any teams left you want to talk about?
Let's have a look at the teams real quick. Canyon SRAM, maybe. That's maybe one of the biggest, one of the bigger teams in the Women's World Tour. They brought in Ricarda Boyenfeind, of course, or Young Wolf. Antonia Niedermayer as well from the Generation team. Maaike van der Duin, Alice Towers, Skalniak, Soika, and then Alice Barnes, Oudeman, Harris, Harvey, Amelia Liusik, or Hans, please help me.
Amelia Liusik, Alena.
And Lisa Kleiner out. What do you think of that team?
Well, I don't think they lost a lot of quality. They lost a big amount of riders, but they entered a big amount of riders as well. I think the transfers they did are transfers for the future. They brought in a lot of young talent and added that to the experience of some riders that are already in the team. I think we can expect some nice things of Canyon SRAM, and I really hope Kasia Niewiadoma will get that big fish in 2023.
I think everybody hopes that she finally gets the results she deserves for a very long time. Does Alice Boys leave the team? Does that open up some freedom for Bossuit in the classics? Because Alice Barnes was leader in those semi-classics where Niewiadoma wasn't. I'm
going to say the thing you would like.
You can say not.
Which is, I think Shari Bossuit proved in 2022 that she could be better in the future than Alice Barnes. The two were, I think Alice Barnes was like ahead of Bossuit before the 2022 season, but when the season ended, I think Shari proved to be the better one of the two.
Definitely in results, Shadi's results were just better than Alice Barnes's. So I think maybe Barnes also saw that and felt the threat and decided to I'll pick another fight somewhere else.
Did they make their classic team stronger or weaker? I think the Skalniak is maybe someone who can race in the classics, but besides that, I don't see anyone who's brought in the team to strengthen up the classics team. I think I have more climbers or.
I don't think they needed new names to be better in the classics. I think the experience a lot of riders had last year is what will make them better this season.
Yeah.
So just a sort of growth and development year from last year.
Yeah, I think so. Like Chabi is a name I think we will see a lot this season as well. She's still young and gained some experience last year, and already has some good results as well.
Yeah, I think we talked about most of the team. That of course you have EF Education
With Zoe Backstedt.
With Zoe Back, yeah, she's a generational talent. I said it. She has so much talent. She's so strong, but still so young. If she's monitored well, good surrounded, she's a star for the future.
And with Alison Jackson, the team brought in some experience as well, so the young riders will be able to learn from her as well.
A bit of dancing experience as well. TikTok skills will be on point at the AS. Maybe lastly, FDG, to end of this episode. They brought in Gladys Verhulst from Le Col Wahoo and Loes Adegeest, and they lost Chapman. So only one woman going out of the team and two brought in. Any opinion on FDG for the upcoming season and their transfers?
Yeah, I don't think a lot has changed at the team. Maybe it's kind of the same situation as what I said for Canyon Strand Racing. The riders that were there last season may be better in 2023. With that, I mean Vittoria Guazzini, for example. Her first year at the team in 2022 was already big, and I expect even bigger things from her this season. Yeah, and add to that the experience of Uttrup Ludwig, for example, and we also have Marta Cavalli, who had a lot of bad luck after Tour de France Femme. So, yeah, the quality is there, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely a team that I feel like they're in the right flow. Like if they win, it's always full team celebration. Like I think they have a real team spirit. Not many riders leaving the team, not many joining. So they're kind of a good group. I think they can just build off of this and work with that group to get some really good results this year.
Maybe a name we don't hear a lot being mentioned is the name of Evita Muzic. She's only 23 years old. She already had some big results, and I think this season we might hear her a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. She's growing a bit in the shadow of Sicily, Uttrup Ludwig. I think, if I recall correctly, Muzic participated to the France, yes. So she can develop within the shadows of the big leader within the team. And 2023 might be her breakthrough season. Looking forward to that. I would like to throw one more thing into this podcast episode. Like we all saw, the Women's World Tour calendar is getting busier and busier. Races getting added all over. Like now there is Women's World Tour in Australia next week as well. Does it give a problem for the teams? Like, for example, the the FDG squad has only 15 women in the team. Other teams are quite small as well. There aren't teams with 30 riders like the men's peloton. So all those World Tour races are important to get the points to promote towards World Tour if you want to. Is it a problem right now? The calendar is too busy for the squads?
We already talked about the evolution of women's cycling, and this is a big part of it. The bigger calendar, I think it won't be a problem just yet this season, as teams in women's races are still smaller than teams in men's races as well. I think they only have 6 riders in there. But as the calendar evolves, the teams need to evolve with that, obviously. So if in 2024 there are even more races, then the teams definitely need to be bigger.
Yeah, I think as long as the races don't overlap much, and I don't think there's many cases of that, it doesn't become a problem, because you can just work with one squad and then sort of swap riders in and out, depending on the race you're trying to do. I think from a organizational standpoint, like getting the cars there, getting the buses there, all the bikes, like that, it can become very difficult if you only have 15 riders. I'm guessing they're only going to have one bus or like 2 cars, maybe 3 cars. Those are big costs to incur on a team if they have to grow that the size of their organization as well. I don't know if they're ready for that.
Yeah, it's like it will need to develop steadily. There need to be development, but every aspect of the women's pro racing needs to develop with it, and not only the bigger teams or not only more races. It's like it needs to develop all in the same movement, I think. Otherwise, you're gonna have problems with a Team SD Worx only getting stronger and stronger, getting more money and more money, because they are able to bring in the big leaders to all the World Tour races, and then the other teams are there for the crumbles. So we don't want that, I think. But yeah, that was a thought I had and I wanted to talk about. That's it for me, I think.
Well, let's hope the teams are ready for data for the evolution. But I think I can speak for the 3 of us when I say we are totally ready for that new cycling season. As from the end of this month, I think we can start again with the Domestique Live on our Twitter account as well. So we have some busy months ahead. Is there anything else you guys would like to mention?
I would like to thank our followers and listeners to start the season together with us. Stay tuned for more on the podcast, but on our blog as well. There are some nice interviews on there, some nice articles, and of course our Twitter and other social media. On TikTok, for example, you will see the stupidity Domestique members have sometimes. But yeah, go follow us on all platforms.
And maybe mentioning something new at our account. If our followers and listeners would like to support our projects in 2023, they can always buy us a coffee at our Ko-Fi account, which can be found in our link tree on Twitter and other socials. And
I'm thirsty. I would like to get a coffee, so...
we might have some special projects this season, who knows. But more on that later. I think the only thing left to say is bye-bye and get ready for the season.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
Ciao.
I've got the spores, the sickness, there's the twins in my brain.